Hello and welcome to the GOMEANGREEN.com barbershop podcast. My name is Harry, and with us, of course, is the one, the only, the man that knows more about North Texas football recruiting than anyone I know, the real JD. JD Davis, how are you, sir?
What's going on, Harry? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back in the saddle with you again. It's been too long. There's a lot going on. You just can't really sit still if you're a North Texas fan these days. We just got news across the wire that the softball team won a big game tonight, 1-0. So congratulations to Coach DeLong, and I guess he's now our all-time leading softball coach winner in the history of the program. So congratulations on that front. We got to give our just due for a big win like tonight over, I guess, Middle Tennessee, but. Beyond that, obviously the football recruiting situation has heated up considerably over the last few days. Let's just jump right in if you're ready. I know the fans are interested in hearing what's going on, but tell me what you are seeing in these recent commits. Let's start off maybe with Blair Conwright and then kind of move over from there. What are your thoughts?
So, we've seen Jair Shorter leave. We've seen Tommy Bush leave. Those are two high potential guys. You know, we've seen Jair. I don't want to say he was a boomer bust, but I mean, his freshman year, it looked like he was going to be a first round draft pick, and then battled injuries. But I give him a ton of credit because he kept battling, never gave up, and then had an unbelievable bounce back year last year. I think it was. What was he catching? Like 60% of his catches went for touchdowns. Yeah. So, he hit the portal. That was kind of a shocker. I figured he'd stuck it out this long. He would, finish up here. And then Tommy Bush was a guy that, was on the verge of being a 5-star recruit as a high school guy, went to Georgia, and then just never really panned out here at North Texas. Had an injury, I think, his first or second play, and just never really reached that near 5-star potential that he had. So we knew the staff was going to need to fill some spots there in the wide receiver room, which I think, and I've said on pretty much every podcast we've talked about it, that I think the wide receiver room at North Texas is still probably its deepest room. But this last week, it got deeper. I mean, the first commit they got was Blair Conwright, TCU wide receiver. Not the biggest guy in the world, and that's the same as with the second receiver we got. But Blair's a guy that I think has some game-changing speed that I think that will really go good in this Eric Morris air raid offense. I really think that he could surprise some people. He had a really good year last year at TCU. So like I said, I think that definitely could be trending up for him, or he could be trending up.
Hey, and TCU's loaded. I mean, so not making the cut there is not anything to be ashamed of at all. I mean, it could just be a victim of circumstance and just timing, right? So I welcome any type of P5. I know we're not supposed to say that anymore. Sorry, Commissioner Oresco, but any type of power school player like this that's got speed that they think can play is a welcome addition to me.
Absolutely. The other guy's James Burns, the transfer from Austin P. I think this is kind of an underrated hire. It's not an underrated commit. This guy was a guy that we had to battle for. I don't think he really publicized his recruitment as much. I talked to him the other night, had him on the podcast, interviewed him for Go Mean Green, and he's a guy that was highly recruited. I mean, Texas State was coming after him hard and heavy. Several other teams he had, that were knocking on his door. So I think it was a pretty big recruiting win for North Texas. And when I asked him, the best way to describe his game, and he said speed. So I think he's going to fit really good in the air raid offense. I think the slot position is kind of where he's going to suit up. And like I said, hopefully we can kind of have maybe Jalen Darden-esque type success.
Well, I mean, look, I think Eric Morris knows a little bit about wide receivers and the kind of wide receivers that he likes in this offense. Yep. And I'm going to trust his judgment on these things. He was a wide receiver, pretty good one himself.
Yeah, and then when I was interviewing James, they brought it up and we kind of talked about it a little bit. I mean, it's got to be enticing to come to a place like North Texas to play. Your head coach was a successful Big 12 wide receiver. Your offensive coordinator, Jordan Davis, was a successful Big 12 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Another assistant on staff who I think is playing a big part, DeMarcus Ayers. He played in the NFL. So, I mean, and he was a wide receiver. So you're talking about you've got 3 high-quality college wide receivers, and one with NFL experience on staff. And he said that played a pretty big part in his decision, having the chance to come in and as a wide receiver, you're going to get used.
So let me ask the questions that the average Mean Green or Go Mean Green fan asks, even though it's probably not the most complicated. But any relation in the Burns family to another Burns on our team, or is that just a coincidence?
Just a coincidence. I did mention it to him. I told him we're going to have to think of a nickname for the 2. I know, the Mighty Ducks had the Bash brothers. We got the Burns brothers now. We need to figure out some nickname for them. But no, I mentioned it to him. He never said anything, so I'm guessing there's no relations there. But definitely could, if they both have the kinds of years they have last year and advance on both them, it could have 2 Burns up there at the top of the statistical leaderboards.
What happened with Jair? I mean, we know we've chronicled and gone through the tight end defections, and those stung, obviously, and took us a little bit by surprise. But you could kind of write that off to saying, hey, this offense may not be using the traditional tight end as much as what Luttrell was doing. I mean, there are some people that believe that, but I do think there was also an effort to keep him here. But that being said, with Jair, I mean, he was obviously a fan favorite. I mean, had all the potential in the world, did fight a lot of injuries. But what do you think? Was that one that just took him by surprise, or was that just he wanted a new start? What was your take on the Jair Shorter situation?
He was one of the ones that we heard of, really early on in the Eric Morris whenever he took over. That there was teams courting him. I think that in today's age, there's people in people's DMs all the time. It may not actually be coaches, but it may be, roundabout ways, people can judge interest and, throw out numbers, and tampering's running wild in college football. It's no secret. And he was a guy that we, Gums is a guy hit the portal. We knew people were after him. Gaddy's another guy hit the portal. We knew people were after him. And I think Shorter, that's just, I think that he had people in his ear way before spring, but after going through spring, I know he didn't suit up. I think they were holding him out till fall, but to stay healthy. But he may also have been holding out so he could, be healthy whenever he hit the portal. I'm not sure. I don't have any inside information on that, but it seemed like it was more a shock to me than it was, I guess, the staff when it went down. But
is this the new reality, JD, in terms of where NIL and the portal? Until the NCAA or maybe our national government steps in and tries to make some changes. I mean, I'm just going to tell you from my standpoint, I think it's getting to the point where it's hurting the game. And I hope that they make some changes. But if this is our reality, we have to do the best given the situation that we're facing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the transfer portal, I want to say it kind of evened the playing field at first. I really think that some G5s were able to capitalize early in the portal era, but the NIL, I think, has made it difficult. I think that there's some guys just of late that I think a couple years ago, with this staff, the way they're recruiting, they would have landed some guys. But, I mean, some of these guys are just getting money offers that they can't turn down. And they're going to schools that, they're not going to play it. I don't know either way to say it. I mean, I think there's players that could be all conference players at G5 schools that are going to Power Fives just as depth, just because they're getting, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 checks. So, I mean, it's going to kill their chances of playing on Sundays, and you hate that. But, also I was a college kid at one point, and I don't think, I could turn down a, $50,000 to $100,000 check, even if I'm just going to sit on the bench at a school or whatever. I mean, as long as the check cashes. So,
and therein lies the problem. I mean, we don't know. There's no transparency in this system. We don't know how big or bag of money are we talking about. What are the ties to that money? Are there NIL at Miami or these other schools? Do they have requirements of playing time? Like, what if you get there and you're not a starter and you were promised? You know what I mean? Those are the issues to me that have to be hashed out. We could have a whole podcast on this, but I do think it's something to keep an eye on if you're a fan, because this is a whole different world than anything I think JD or I have ever have ever seen. And you know it a lot better than I do these days, but I've been watching it for a while too. And it's like, I don't know, where this thing is going. Yeah.
No, and I mean, like you're saying, I think that eventually, I mean, you think about it. I mean, all the major sports I can think of, besides probably soccer and Major League Baseball, they all have salary caps. So I think at some point, I mean, that may be a thing that you're going to have to reel in. I mean, there's going to be some kind of guidance, because, I mean, there's just, and I will say, I think North Texas is in a lot better spot than some group of 5 schools. I mean, I think there's some schools that, I mean, they're having trouble paying, their coaches competitive pay, much less, I don't think they got the alumni support either. So I think North Texas, in the long run, once they get it going, I think NIL wise, I think we're going to be fine. As long as the team has success, I think there's enough alumni, enough support that we'll be able to be near the top of group of 5 schools. But like I said, there's a lot of schools that don't have the alumni support, don't have the money back in it. And I think it's going to be put a pretty big gap from, top of the group of 5 to bottom. And then I think even a bigger gap going to the Power 5 level.
And I'll just say this, and then we can get off the subject, because, like I said, we could do a whole documentary on this. But what word I'm hearing is that we got all the pieces in place, but there is some reorganization going on with the NIL. There are some things going on, which we'll be able to report on, I think, a little bit later down the road. But there are some changes going on there. The pieces are in place, but you've got to adjust to what the marketplace is doing, and I think that's what they're doing right now. So I'm very encouraged about what I'm hearing, and we'll just definitely keep everyone posted. I don't want to miss out. Let's go back to the new recruits. Talk a little bit about CJ Garnett, the junior college transfer, I guess, hybrid linebacker.
Yes, he is. He's a guy from Blinn. He transferred in from Missouri State, and he's a guy that another guy that Texas State had targeted. A couple other schools had targeted. He's a guy that supposed to be interviewing later tonight to kind of get a little more info on where they see him playing. But he's kind of, to me, looks kind of like a hybrid, the safety type linebacker. I think some schools call it the star. Some schools call it I don't know what the other name they call it is, but it's like kind of the hybrid linebacker role, and that's the way I see him. He's 6'2", 200. Between 200 and 220, but fast guy, kind of flying around the field.
Wheels. Definitely has some wheels on his field.
Got wheels. And we're kind of creating a little pipeline. We've got several guys from Blinn the last 2 years. So I think that's a good JUCO to try to build a pipeline too. But he's a guy that, like I said, I think you like to see guys that are excited to play for your program. Like I said, he had multiple, D1 offers, and he got offered. He was at North Texas the next morning, started his official visit, and I think, within 24 hours, he committed by the end of his visit. So he's a guy that me, as a guy that covers recruiting, but is also a fan. He's a guy I'm pulling for, a little extra, just because I think it's nice to see a guy that excited to join your program, and especially a guy like him that had other offers.
I would say, without a doubt, everyone we brought in seems really happy to be here, which that's a key. You want them to, if they don't want to be here, that we don't want them. So that's a positive for sure.
And the TCU, all James Burns, Blair Conrad, and CJ Garnett all had Division I offers, and all it took visits within the last 2 weeks. I mean, Blair, I know I've seen a lot of people on the board talking about, we reported on GOMEANGREEN, he had his visit, and then it kind of went silent. Well, he actually went on 3 more visits between the time he left North Texas, finished his 3 visits, and decided North Texas was the place he wanted to go. So to me, that speaks volumes about the staff and being able to, 1, win recruiting battles, but 2, also be confident enough to say, hey, go take your visits. We'll see you when you get done, and call us with your commitment. And that's what's happened with at least 2 of them. And like I said, all 3 of them, I think will be definitely, I think all 3 will be in the 2 deep come fall.
Absolutely. No, it's we can't say enough. I know we sound like a broken record, but the social media game, the hitting the streets game, from the assistant coaches, from the top level assistant all the way down, to the very lowest level assistant, the recruiting analyst cadre that we've put together, the creative graphics department. I mean, I know I sound like a broken record every time we do one of these podcasts, but JD, you've been following this too. It's at a whole nother level. I mean, it is absolutely way better than it's been for us ever, I would say, in terms of what the kind of creative and hard work and just the social media pounding that they're doing on the streets every single day.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. And when we talked about it when Coach Morris got hired, I mean, that was kind of his vision was, building a Power 5 level coaching staff, recruiting staff. I mean, he's got everything, that a Power 5 as far as numbers. And I think, Coach O, Schuyler's the director of on-campus recruiting, Robbie Gordon, Ty Murphy, Jason Martinez, all that guys on recruiting staff, Austin Steele. I mean, they're leaving no stone unturned, and I think that's impressive. I mean, I think the only thing, and even going to recruiting battles, I mean, the only recruiting battles these guys are losing right now are NIL losses. I mean, and it's just because, technically these kids are going in free agency and they're just getting bigger money offers elsewhere. But other than that, the offers, the visits, our coaches, and having this kind of Power 5 staff is really, this Power 5 numbers is really freeing up our coaches to be able to go and build relationships with these guys. The staff that they've got, they're able to cipher through the thousands of kids in Texas that are, sending messages every day wanting to come to North Texas. They're able to cipher through that and then, filter through and get to the coaches, the ones that they need to be after. And like I said, I think they're doing a great job building relationships and not only that, but hitting the streets and visiting high school. So it's been super impressive to watch. And like I said, we've already got a very good start on the 2024 class. So I'm excited come December, what the final product looks like when this class officially comes together.
Okay, so let's talk numbers real quick, and then if you don't mind, I'd like to do a little segue over to basketball because we got to give basketball their just due. National NIT champions deserve our attention, but numbers-wise, how many more spots do you – I'm not getting exact, but roughly how many spots do we have left to give on the football side of the fence in terms of scholarships heading into this fall I guess the opening American conference season in 23?
5. There is 5 spots left. And just judging by the players they've had on campus, I feel like, those 5 spots are going to be used. You're going to probably see an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, tight end, and a cornerback. And then I think if, maybe a quarterback comes available, something that's starter worthy, I think that could be the 5th spot. But like I said, I think those 4, I'm pretty confident in saying, if sitting here right now, that if the right guy comes along, those 4 spots, those 4 positions will have extra guys added between now and fall.
Sounds good. Okay. I don't think since last we met have talked about the hiring of 2 new assistants on the basketball side. It took a while. We were kind of biting our fingernails there for a little bit, but we finally got the ball rolling, and now I have some really outstanding commits coming in. But let's first get your quick thoughts on the hiring of Johnny Estelle. I guess assistant coaches Johnny Estelle and Jace Hurl. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. To the Big Boss Ross Hodge staff.
Yeah, I think they're both. When I got the names the day they were announced, I think they're both huge ads. Johnny Estelle was a head coach himself, coming over from Texas A&M Kingsville, and he was successful there, but he was super successful at Navarro before that. That's where the Ross Hodge connection came in. They battled against each other in junior college, but Estelle was super successful there. And then, Jace Hurl is a guy that when his name was kind of mentioned to me, I'm like, I don't know if North Texas can pull this off because his name was getting thrown out for some head coaching jobs.
The head coaching job in Nevada, wasn't it? Or
yeah, there was several. If you just Google Jace Hurl on Twitter, you're going to see his name listed on several head coaching jobs. So kind of reminds me of, and I don't want to put any pressure on him or anything, but he reminds me a lot of when Ross came here because, Ross Hodge was a guy that a lot of us were mentioning, as a head coach when Grant McCaslin was hired. So I think, Hurl could be that guy that's viewed as, head coach in waiting, or, he could be here a year and he could be a head coach somewhere else. He's already been an interim coach at Colorado State. That's where him and Ross were together. That's where the connection began there between those two. But he was the interim coach there, but I think something that the staff has really put an emphasis on, and I think we've seen it with the recruits they've signed, but Hodge, Estelle, and Hurl all have junior college experience. Yep. And that was something that stood out to me in Hodge's interview is, with the transfer portal, NIL, all this stuff, you're having to rebuild your roster year in and year out. Well, that's the same way it is at junior colleges. I mean, when you only have 2 years, those guys are rebuilding rosters year in and year out. So I think that's, they've put an emphasis on being able to be successful at junior college ranks. We've seen the success that North Texas had. Luke Della, the AD for basketball, put out a list today of the JUCO guys that's been brought in since Grant got hired, and it's a super impressive list. I mean, I'm going to try to find it right now while we're talking about it, because I didn't really realize that we'd had that many JUCO guys come in, but they've pretty much laid the foundation of the North Texas basketball team. So let me get that pulled up real fast.
No, go ahead. And I'm just going to say this. It's like the national basketball analyst, and, you follow them on Twitter like I do, JD, and the ones that follow not just national, but also the, mid-major, whatever you want to call it, are pretty much 100% saying, watch out with this staff that Ross Hodge is putting together. They are off the charts talented, and North Texas is not going to miss a beat. So that's nice to see. You know what I mean? We obviously are fans and want to think the best of whatever hires we have. But boy, there's been, nonstop praise being heaped on Ross Hodge for the coaching staff that he's put in place. And that was a tough gig because, Grant McCaslin didn't leave anyone for Ross. He took the whole staff with him. So kudos to Coach Hodge for putting this group together. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so here's the National Junior College All-Americans that signed with UNT just since 2017. Jason Edwards and John Buggs are the two that signed just here this week. You got Tyler Perry, you've got Reese, you've got JJ Murray, you got Javion Hamlet, Mike Miller, Jordan Duffy. And those guys, and then he goes on the list what those 7 guys, accomplished. Combined 390 games played, 248 starts, 165 wins, 3 league championships, NIT, CBI. You got 2 all-tournament honors, 2 player of the years, 5. So, that's those guys laid the foundation, and they've had a ton of success. Like I said, that's a pipeline that North Texas basketball has built. I think the JUCO guys, I'm not going to say I will say it. I feel like those JUCO guys, they're a little tougher than, say, just the guys you bring in from high school, because they have to. The JUCO life is hard, and you got to love basketball. My brother was a junior college basketball player, and it's not for the faint of heart. You got to love basketball way more than a lot of
bus trips, a lot of quick stop tuna sandwiches, and it's not the glamorous life that the Division I recruits get to live. Okay, so real quick, let's jump through the new basketball signees. I'm just going to throw a name and give me kind of a brief your JD thoughts on each one, if that's okay. So let's start off with John Buggs. What are your thoughts on Mr. Buggs?
He'll be on the interview later on in the podcast. 3-and-D guy. I think he's one of the best shooters in Conference USA last year. I think he was number 2 in shot percentage, 3-point shot percentage, and he had the 4th most 3-pointers and had the 2nd best field goal percentage. So a shooter, but he's also a guy that I think can D up. I think he's a guy that they're going to look for to fill the Kai Huntsberry role. I think he's going to be the 2 guard, and like I said, he was super successful at UTSA on a very bad team. So I'm excited to see him.
Just the fact that he had to play on a team like UTSA, that he's bound to have a much better showing coming over to North Texas just in that by itself, right? Wouldn't you say?
For sure.
The supporting cast is what I'm saying. No offense to UTSA, but the supporting cast is going to be a whole lot better at North Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, next, let's talk about the one I'm the most excited about, and I think pretty much our entire fight. I'm excited about Buggs as well, but Jason Edwards. Hearing comparisons to Tyler Perry, and I would say let's tap the brakes on that, folks, because Tyler Perry may be one of the best, if not the best player ever play for North Texas. Sorry, Cooley, but it's just the way I feel. But that being said, what a huge coup for North Texas to land Jason Edwards from Dodge City. Talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 21 points a game, 22 points a game, the seventh most 3-pointers. I mean, he's just he was a beast. I mean, he's one of those guys that you're just like, how did he slip through the cracks? I think he was pretty highly recruited, but still, I think he's a guy that's got the potential, and I think he's got 3 years left to play. So he was a guy I hadn't seen his name. It was a shock to me when I seen him at sign, but watching his film, I mean, he can not only shoot it, but I know a lot of people were mentioned on the board, and something that stood out to me is he's got a quick first step. I mean, to me, it seemed
quick, man. He is super quick.
Yeah,
and aggressive and uses the backboard, like, you know what I mean? He goes at the basket.
I've went blank right now, but I can't think of the point guard that played for us that went to Gonzaga. But to me, he kind of reminded me of that.
Ryan Woolridge. Yeah.
Yep. He reminded me of that as speed, but he also, like I said, he's a lot better outside shooter than Woolridge was. But as far as speed goes, I mean, like I said, when he wants to get to the bucket, watching his film, it looked like he can get there anytime he wants.
He's going to be fun to watch. Okay, let's talk about also the last one, I guess, Robert Allen. I guess he's a one and done transfer out of Ole Miss, but, pretty impressive film and good size, kind of size you just can't ignore.
Yeah, I mean, 6'8", 230. He's a guy that's had some experience. I mean, he's played 134 college games so far, and he started 88. So to get a guy like
in the
him,
SEC, by the way, in the SEC.
Yes, Ole Miss. Ole Miss. And I mean, and like I said, he's on the verge of being on the 1,000 club, 1,000 points, 1,000 rebounds. So the guy's seen plenty of college basketball. I think he's a guy that's going to be able to, you're going to be able to plug and play right behind Sissoko and, Scott there at the 4-5 position. I think he's going to play kind of like Martinez, but, like I said, I think with his size and versatility, it's exciting to see how Hodge uses him on the defensive end. But I think that's one thing that I think has been a kind of an emphasis we've talked about on the board several times is the guys that Hodge is bringing in. It's not, they're not starting over. I think that Hodge and the staff views it as we've still got a super solid core here with Scott and Jones and Sissoko. Let's reload and let's go battle for another NIT. So that's impressive to me that a lot of coaches could have, threw it up and said, okay, we're going to start from scratch and let's do this. But Hodges went out there and got some veteran guys between Bugs and Allen. I mean, you're talking about guys that started, several years of college basketball and had great success. So I think we don't really have to worry about any of these guys coming in and having much of a learning curve because I think all these guys are going to be able to hit the ground running and hopefully fill some void that the last year guys, the guys that left last year are going to leave.
Okay, last but not least, because I know we're pushing up against the end of the show, but I know your boy Coach Burton has had some successes here, and he's been such a welcome addition to the North Texas family. But I feel like now we almost have to keep posted on him and what he's doing. But I know he's had a couple good signees. We don't have to go into great detail, but are you still excited about what Coach Burton is bringing to the table?
Absolutely. We got to have his brother on the podcast, Brian Burton, who was, in my opinion, one of my favorite guys to talk to. But I think Jason Burton I was excited about him from the get go, just reading up on him. And like I said, I'm from near Commerce, so I got to kind of see from a distance what he'd been doing there. But then, I think we all saw his press conference. I mean, he's just a guy that he's easy to cheer for. But a lot like Hodge, I mean, I think that the girls he's bringing in are girls that I think are going to be able to step in right away and hopefully improve the women's basketball team pretty quick. He brought in two girls from Commerce, Diane Robertson and Desiree Colonel. Those are two girls that had great success. I think they're both All-Americans at Commerce. He brought in Duncan from Wichita State. I know her offensive numbers didn't really excite anybody, but if you read up on her, She was arguably one of the best defenders last year in the American Conference, and so that's pretty impressive to get a girl that started, I think, 30 games last year in the American. So moving up to a bigger conference, getting a girl like her with some experience, it is exciting. And then the last one they've signed is Morehead State transfer Sophie Beniraga. She is
Good
actually
luck.
from
Good
France.
luck on that last name.
Yeah. I'll just call her Sophie. So yeah, and she's had some experience too, some college experience. So excited to see what Coach Burton's going to put together. I know he's built a pretty impressive women's staff in terms of the ladies, the people he's brought in. So yeah, like I said, in years past, I'll admit I haven't followed women's basketball probably as close as I should, but this team, and like I said, Coach Burton, just from his press conference and getting to know his brother, and I think he's going to be. I think we've got some exciting times ahead for the women's basketball team as well.
One last thing before I let you go on the back to the men's basketball. How many spots left to give, and what positions do you anticipate Coach Hodge expending those on?
So I've been told they've got 2 left, but the people that follow basketball, I guess, closer than I have said that they think there's 1 more left. What we don't know is, are they trying to get an extra year, maybe a waiver for Kai? I don't know. I don't know if they've got another guy committed. I definitely think there's going to be another point guard coming in. I think they've got one coming in a couple weeks. I think they're trying to keep that on the down low. So I'll post it when I can. But he's an impressive. The guy that is rumored to be coming and visiting, and I think we got a pretty good chance of landing, is a guy with 1 year left, but he's got a ton of experience. So he's going to fall right along the lines of the other 3 guys we've talked about so far. So I think that, and then I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't bring in another post player, another guy for behind Sissoko and Allen. And I think that's, if there is 2 spots left, I would say that's where you're going to see a post, and you're going to see a point guard.
Okay, sounds good. That's all I got, man. Did I miss anything?
No. I mean, like I said, it's just between basketball and the NIT making that go a little later this year, and the football we know is just year round. I mean, it's just seems like we really haven't had a chance to take a break. I mean, it's exciting for us for all of us that cover the recruiting and everything. It seems like there's news breaking every day. There's offers getting thrown out. I mean, there's not really a day you get to just, man, we need some North Texas news.
Hey, listen, man, it's a full-time job. I mean, you're all over it, as everyone knows. If you want to follow North Texas sports closer than anyone, JD's a guy. I'm doing my part. Hey, man, I'm posted on the board at the spring game. So you know what I mean? Yeah. We're all doing everything Absolutely. We can, but it's fun. We love it. We're not. I mean, we're fans. We come out and say it. We love this program, and we wanted to see it do well and be successful. But we're also honest, and we will tell you the truth when that needs to be told. So anyway, that's all I have, JD. Unless you got anything to add, I guess we can call it a night.
Yeah, no, I mean, all I was going to say was, I do remember when we first started this, it seemed like we had the February signing day, and that was really it. But once that was over with that day, it was like, all right, I'll see you in August, I'll see you in September when fall.
Not anymore. It's
not
like
anymore though.
All the time. I mean, literally recruiting goes year round, you know what I mean? It's like, I have to ask you, when does the portal actually close? It does have a closing day, but it seems like it's never ending, really.
It does seem like it's never ending, and like when the football portal closes, then the basketball portal opens up. So it's just like there's always portal action going on no matter what's going on. So
crazy. It's crazy. Well, this has been fun, man. Thank you so much. And for everyone out there, please follow JD, myself on GOMEANGREEN.com, the website, and also on social media at North Texas Eagle and at GOMEANGREEN. And other than that, as always, Go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.